She left me when I had nothing. But what hurt the most was how easily she walked away. I didn't lose love that day. I lost the illusion that someone would stay when life got hard. Story starts now. There was a time when my life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. I had a small job at a local electronics store, nothing glamorous, just enough to pay rent, eat decent food, and dream about something bigger. And back then, I wasn't alone. Her name was Alina. She wasn't just my girlfriend, she was my plan, my future, my reason to keep pushing when life felt heavy. We used to sit on the rooftop of my apartment building at night, sharing cheap coffee and expensive dreams. She wanted a house with a balcony. I wanted a garage with tools and a project car. We didn't have money, but we had hope. And back then, hope felt enough. Until the day everything started collapsing. It began with one phone call from my boss. He said the store was shutting down. Sales were down. Owner couldn't keep it running. I remember standing there, phone in hand, staring at the wall like someone had just erased my future. I told Alina that night. She hugged me, said we'd figure it out, said she believed in me, and I believed her. For the first few weeks, I tried everything, applied everywhere, walked miles dropping resumes, took interviews that led nowhere. Savings started shrinking. Bills didn't care about my situation. Rent date arrived faster than hope. I sold my watch first, then my spare phone, then the guitar I had since college. Each sale felt like trading pieces of myself just to survive another week. Alina still said she understood, still said she loved me, but something had changed. Her messages became shorter. Her calls became less frequent. Her smile felt forced. One evening she came over, sat across from me on that old sofa, and avoided eye contact. That's when I knew. People don't look away unless they've already decided something. She sighed, said she needed stability, said she couldn't live in uncertainty, said she loved me, but love wasn't enough anymore. I remember the silence after those words. It felt louder than any argument. I didn't beg, didn't shout, didn't try to convince her, because deep down, I already knew she was leaving. She stood up, picked up her bag, paused at the door for a second, then walked out of my life like it had been temporary all along. And just like that, I wasn't just broke anymore. I was alone, too. That night the apartment felt different. The walls felt colder. The silence felt heavier. Even breathing felt like work. I sat on the floor next to the bed, staring at nothing for hours. Not crying, not angry, just empty. The next weeks were the hardest I had ever lived. Rent overdue, electricity warnings, fridge almost empty. I started taking small daily jobs, car washing, loading boxes, fixing wires for neighbors. Not because I believed it would fix my life, but because I didn't know what else to do. Some nights I skipped meals. Some nights I pretended water was enough. And the worst part wasn't the hunger, it was the thoughts. The thoughts that whispered, maybe she was right. Maybe you're not enough. Maybe this is all your life will ever be. I tried to ignore them, but when you're alone long enough, thoughts become louder than reality. One afternoon, while fixing a broken fan in someone's house, the owner casually asked me, "Didn't you used to work at that electronics store?" I nodded. He said something that stuck with me. He said, "You always looked like the only guy there who cared about customers." I shrugged it off, didn't think much of it. But later that night, those words replayed in my mind. Not because they fixed anything, but because for the first time in months, someone had noticed something good about me. And sometimes, that's all a person needs to keep going one more day. I didn't know it then, but that small moment was the first crack in the darkness. Because life wasn't done with my story yet, and the girl who left when I had nothing wasn't the last chapter. She was just the turning point. I didn't know it then, but life had started testing how long I could survive without hope. Days blended into each other. Morning meant searching for work. Evening meant counting coins. Night meant fighting thoughts. I stopped checking my phone, because every notification reminded me of what I had lost. Except one day, a message popped up from an unknown number. It was from a customer. He wrote, "Hey, you fixed my TV months ago at the store. Are you still doing repair work?" I I stared at that message for a long time. Not because it was big, but because it was something. I replied yes. That evening I went to his house, fixed the issue in 20 minutes. He paid me more than I expected. Not a fortune, but enough to eat properly for the first time in days. As I walked home that night, holding those few bills in my pocket, something small returned. Not confidence, not happiness, just movement. And sometimes, movement is enough to stop a person from drowning. The next day I printed a few cheap flyers. Electronics repair, home visits available. I taped them on poles, shops, bus stops. Most people ignored them. Some laughed, some tore them down. But one call came, then another. Small jobs, broken speakers, old microwaves, laptop charging issues. Nothing glamorous, but each job meant one more day I didn't give up. Weeks passed. I wasn't stable, but I wasn't collapsing anymore either. Then, one afternoon, while fixing a computer in a small office, the owner watched me work for a while. He said, "You're quick." I smiled politely. He asked where I learned. I told him I'd been doing it for years at the store. He nodded slowly, then asked something unexpected. "Would you be interested in part-time work here?" Nothing huge, just handling repairs and setup. For a second I thought I misheard him, because after months of doors closing, one had just opened slightly. I said yes immediately. The pay wasn't big, but it was steady, and steady felt like luxury at that point. I started working mornings at the office, and still doing repair calls in the evening. I was exhausted most days, but for the first time in months, I felt useful again. One evening after work, I walked past a cafe where Alina and I used to sit. I almost kept walking, but something made me stop. Inside, I saw her. She was sitting with someone, dressed better than before, laughing the way she used to laugh with me. For a moment, everything inside me froze. Not because I still wanted her back, but because I remembered the version of myself who had lost her. I stood there outside the glass for a few seconds, then turned and walked away, because I realized something important in that moment. She hadn't destroyed me. Life had just shown me who would stay during the storm, and who was only there for the sunshine. And once you understand that, you stop blaming people for leaving. You start thanking life for revealing them early. That night I didn't feel sad. I felt lighter, because for the first time, her leaving didn't feel like loss anymore. It felt like direction. Months passed. The office job turned into a permanent role. I started saving small amounts. I fixed my credit slowly, even upgraded to a slightly better apartment. Nothing dramatic, nothing overnight, just small wins stacking quietly. Then one day, the office owner called me into his cabin. He said the company was expanding, opening a second branch, and he needed someone he trusted to manage the technical side there. He looked straight at me and said, "I want you to run it." For a second, I couldn't speak, because the guy who couldn't afford groceries months ago was now being offered responsibility, respect, a future. I accepted, and that decision changed everything, but not in the way I expected. Because success didn't arrive loudly. It arrived quietly, through consistency, patience, and surviving the days I thought I wouldn't. And just when I thought life had finally stabilized, I received a message I never expected to see again. It was from Alina. After all those months, she wrote, "Hey, can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long time, because sometimes the past doesn't return to apologize. Sometimes it returns to test whether you've learned your lesson. And I didn't know yet that this message was about to start the most important chapter of my story. I didn't reply immediately, not because I hated her, not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed to understand something first. Was she part of my past, or a test from it? I left the message unread for hours. Then, finally, late at night, I replied with just 2 words. About what? She responded instantly. About us. I almost laughed, because there was no us anymore. There was only a version of me that had learned the hard way. Still, I agreed to meet. Not for closure, not for love, just for truth. We met at a quiet coffee place, not the old one, a new one, because some places belong to memories, and some memories deserve to stay buried. She looked different, not just physically, different in the way people look when life humbles them. She didn't smile this time. She didn't play confident. She just said softly, "I heard you're doing well now." I nodded. She looked down at her hands. Then she said something I didn't expect. "The guy I left you for cheated on me." Silence filled the table. Not dramatic silence, just quiet reality. She continued, "I lost my job too. Things didn't go the way I thought." I listened, not with anger, not with satisfaction, just with distance. Because the truth is, karma doesn't always feel good when you watch it happen. Sometimes it just feels inevitable. She finally looked up and said, "I know I don't deserve another chance, but I wanted to ask if we could at least start talking again." For a second, the old version of me almost spoke. The guy who used to believe love meant forgiving everything. But then I remembered the nights I skipped meals, the calls I made for work, the loneliness that built the man sitting there now. And I realized something powerful. She didn't break me. Her leaving built me. If she had stayed, I might have never discovered how strong I could be alone. So I smiled politely and said, "I don't hate you, but the person you left doesn't exist anymore." Her eyes filled with tears, but this time, I wasn't the one drowning. I stood up, paid for my coffee, and before leaving I said one last thing. "I hope life treats you fairly. It taught me what I needed to learn." Then I walked out, not angry, not emotional, just free. Because closure doesn't come from people returning. Closure comes from realizing you no longer need them to. That night, as I walked home under the streetlights, I understood something that most people learn too late. Sometimes the worst day of your life is actually the day your real life begins. If she hadn't left, I would have stayed comfortable, dependent, small. But pain forced me to grow. Struggle forced me to move. Loss forced me to find myself. And once you find yourself, you stop chasing the people who couldn't see your worth. You start building a life that proves it. The end. Moral of the story: sometimes people don't leave to hurt you. They leave to reveal the strength you never knew you had. Because the person who walks away from your struggle was never meant to walk into your success.